CMQ investors, welcome to the show. This is Chris Franco. Today I've been on Twitter quite a bit because there's been a lot of conversation around Alibaba. I've made some videos about that. And I've noticed there's a lot of tweets that, Charlie Munger, he's lost his mind by investing in China. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's crazy. He's taking a huge risk. And something I think a lot of investors don't realize, and it's actually kind of surprising, but Berkshire Hathaway, and I say Berkshire meaning Charlie and Warren, have been investing in China since 2008. And I want to read you here from a Fortune magazine article dated March 2nd, 2021, so almost exactly a year ago, about the success of their investment in the electric vehicle maker BYD. I'm just going to read you a few sections of that. I'll include the link in the description and make sure I give credit where credit's due. But it notes that 13 years ago, on the advice of his famously skeptical lieutenant, Charlie Munger, Buffett made a $232 million investment in a relatively unknown Chinese car company called BYD. As Munger told Fortune in a 2009 cover story, he was enthralled by the vision of BYD's founder, a chemist-turned-entrepreneur named Wang Chuanfu, who had built one of the world's largest manufacturers of rechargeable cell phone batteries before pivoting into the automotive sector. This guy is a combination of Thomas Edison and Jack Welch, something like Edison in solving technical problems, and something like Welch in getting done what he needs to do, Munger said of Wang. I've never seen anything like it. By parlaying BYD's rechargeable battery technology into a fast-growing car-making operation, Wang had gained a foothold in the fledgling electric vehicle market, building longer-lasting batteries and cheaper vehicles than American and Japanese manufacturers were managing to do at the time. In BYD, Buffett and Munger believed they had found a company with a shot at one day becoming the largest player in a global automobile market that was inevitably going electric. In late 2008, Berkshire Hathaway ponied up the aforementioned $232 million for a roughly 10% stake in BYD. As Buffett recalled, Berkshire initially tried to buy 25% of the company, but Wang refused to release more than 10% of BYD stock. This was a man who didn't want to sell his company, Buffett told Fortune. That was a good sign. And that is a great sign, by the way, if I do say so myself. It had proved to be money well spent. As the EV market has exploded in China, BYD has developed into a major player in the world's largest car market. It sold more than 130,000 electric passenger vehicles last year as it competes for market share with rival EV makers like Wuling, NIO, and of course, Tesla. As BYD has grown, so has the value of Berkshire's investment. By late 2018, 10 years after cutting that $232 million check, Berkshire's stake in the company had swollen to roughly $1.6 billion. Since then, that figure has climbed exponentially amid the Chinese EV market's rapid expansion and a remarkable fourfold increase in BYD's Hong Kong traded shares last year. Berkshire Hathaway's 8.2% stake in the automaker held a market value of $5.9 billion at the end of 2020. That means that BYD was Buffett's eighth largest holding by market value at the end of last year, and makes it a more valuable investment for the Oracle of Omaha than his stake in the grand old name of American car making, General Motors. Of course, GM is only just accelerating its push into the realm of electric vehicles, whereas BYD has been bracing for an EV-motored future for the past decade and a half. A vision that is now bearing fruit for Buffett, Munger, and their own investors at Berkshire Hathaway. So as people act like Charlie Munger's investment into Alibaba is this, huge risk and he doesn't know what he's doing, he's losing it, this is something that, he's been interested in and has been doing since, in this case, since 2008. And if you look at his relationship with Li Lu and the investment partnership that he has with Li Lu, who he considers to be the Warren Buffett of China, this is someone who's been in this space and investing in this part of the world for quite a long time, almost 20 years, actually. So it's just interesting to me that, people who have a lot of followers on Twitter are saying things like, Munger blew it or he doesn't know what he's doing, when these facts, this reality is really, right here in front of us. As Charlie would say, reality is talking to anyone who will listen. Now, that doesn't mean that the investment in Alibaba was a great investment. No one will really know for many years, because the way that they invest, and you see this with BYD, BYD's realized its value here, in this case, about 13 years later. But, these are long-term investors who understand what they're doing, and they don't do things they don't understand. So I just find it to be interesting that, many people, I say the loudest critics, don't take this into consideration. I also really admire both Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett for being able to, just be so malleable. And I say that because as people get older, they tend to be more rigid in their thinking. It's harder for them to accept, the new things. People want to kind of hold on to the past and think of that as the best way. But these are two gentlemen that look at things as they are, and or at least that's what they always attempt to do, see things as they really are. And I think that portion here about, the inevitability really stuck out. And I'll read that quote one more time before I wrap it up here. In BYD, Buffett and Munger believed they had found a company with a shot at one day becoming the largest player in a global automobile market that was inevitably going electric. I will include this link in the description if you'd like to read it yourself. Again, I want to give credit to fortune.com. It's a great article. I'm also going to read that cover story they referenced from 2009. And I'll have more thoughts on not only Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, but specifically Charlie Munger's investments in China with Li Lu. That's some content that I feel like YouTube could use more content about, I should say. And I want to make sure that this channel is a place where you can get it and really get it as it is, so that you're more informed about how some of the greatest investors of all time have been operating over the years. So I hope this was interesting to you. It was interesting to me. And look forward to talking more soon. So please hit that subscribe button. Please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you if you have any insights about any of this, any of the topics we covered. I'd love to hear from you. I'm always learning new things, and I certainly learn a lot from our audience. So once again, this is Chris Franco for CMQ Investing. Appreciate you hanging out here and watching this video. We'll talk soon.